Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. This time out, a foot controller that allows you to take charge of any MIDI-compatible device, including your DAW, MIDI-compatible effects and guitar amps, keyboard gear, and just about anything else that speaks MIDI. Let's get started. Today we're checking out the Nektar Pacer, a foot controller that speaks MIDI via USB and via 5-pin cable. So you can use it with just about any MIDI device out there. Now we have 10 different switches that can be programmed for virtually any type of MIDI command, and in fact you can do really deep programming with these switches. We can store presets on board, we can connect external expression pedals and foot switches, we can control amplifiers that have switch inputs. There's so much this box can do. Let's take a deeper dive into it. One of the great things about the Pacer is that out of the box it's pretty much plug and play, ready to go with your gear. Whether you're connecting it to your DAW or you're hooking it up to an effects device like a Helix or an Effects, you can plug it right in and get to work. It's got presets that are already configured to take advantage of those devices. Plus you can really dive into MIDI editing if you want to and add all kinds of extended features when you press a button. As I mentioned, the front panel has 10 different foot switches. There's actually an 11th foot switch that we'll talk about in a second, as well as an encoder knob for programming the unit and for accessing different presets. Now the reason I separate this preset foot switch out and don't include it with the other 10 is that it's used for selecting preset mode, for navigating through things on the menu, and also as a back switch that takes you back to the top level of the menus. So it's a little bit different than the other 10 switches here. With the encoder, it's as simple as scrolling through the different programs. You can see that some of these are already programmed for particular pieces of gear. Pod HD, Effects, Kemper Profiling amplifier, and so on. We can also access presets by pressing and holding the preset button for 2 seconds, selecting a bank from the top 4 switches and a number below. So we have 4 banks, A, B, C, and D, and then 6 number switches here, giving us a total of 24 presets. Now when you select a preset, up to 16 MIDI commands can be fired off immediately when you select that preset, so it can instantly configure your entire rig. If you're running a MIDI compatible amplifier, if you're using an amplifier that has foot switch inputs, which we'll talk about in just a second, if you're controlling effects or keyboards, you can fire off commands as soon as you select that preset to call those things up. Each switch can also be programmed to send out MIDI messages, and in fact you can send those out as a single message when you press the switch, or you can repeatedly press the switch and get 6 different steps as well, working through a range of different presets. This gives you a lot of flexibility. You can apply that same depth of programming to all of the switches on the front panel, the foot switches on the back that you may plug in, external foot switches, and to expression pedals as well. Speaking of those external controllers, we have inputs for 2 expression pedals, and those are completely programmable. We have inputs for up to 4 external foot switches, and we also have 4 relay outs that can be used for things like channel switching on an amplifier, turning reverb on and off on an amplifier, anything that accepts a 1/4-inch foot switch jack. We can assign just about any MIDI message you can think of to these switches, to the expression pedal, or to the external foot switches, and in fact you can also assign those to the encoder if you like. We can send MIDI program change messages, continuous controller messages. You can even program this device to send out MIDI notes. So you could program 10 different MIDI notes here and use this as a set of bass pedals when you're on stage, for example. Programming is very simple. You simply scroll through the different options using the encoder knob. So for example, we select our presets here. We can access our controllers here if we want to program those. Save your presets here. Global settings are here, and so on. Using Pacer with your DAW is as simply as connecting a USB out from the unit into your computer and launching your software and assigning this as a controller within your software. I've got it set up here for Pro Tools. Let's take a look at how this works. Basically, Pacer emulates a Mackie control unit. Now the beauty of this is that it then gives you hands-free control over your DAW. If you're a guitarist, a bass player, or a keyboard player, you can keep your hands on your instrument and take charge of all the functions inside your DAW using your feet. It's really slick, a very fast way to work, and it allows you to keep your mind focused on the performance that you're recording. Now if we select the track preset in Pro Tools, we have access to track solo. Simply press the switch, we can scroll down to the next track and solo it. We can also mute, go back up, do that on track 1, and so on. So we have track solo and mute control right here from Pacer. Now if we go to the transport control, you'll see that the labels change here on the front panel of the Pacer, and it says transport over here. And now we have control over loop on and off, fast forward, rewind, stop, play, and record. So if we hit play, Pro Tools start playing, hit stop, we can rewind, fast forward. If we've got a track armed, we can hit record and play, and instantly be recording. Again, we can do all this hands-free, so you can keep your hands on your instrument and focus on making music. Some DAWs, such as PreSonus Studio One, Ableton Live, and Steinberg's Cubase, offer even tighter integration with Pacer. I've got Studio One running here on my MacBook Pro, and when I select track controls, you now see across the top that the available commands have changed a bit. I now can access solo, so I can solo each track, I can mute the tracks, I can record arm tracks as well, and again we can move through tracks using the arrow up down, so we can select the track we want to work on. I can turn the click on and off. I can also jump between loop start and loop end using the patch controls. When I switch to transport, I can now turn loop on and off. I've got fast forward, rewind, stop, play, and record. I hope you've enjoyed this quick look at the Nektar Pacer. This is an extremely versatile, extremely powerful foot controller that allows you to take hands-free control over your computer software as well as your hardware. Whether you're accessing things via USB or by MIDI connections, you can just plug and play, or you can get in there and you can edit really deeply to configure things exactly the way that you want them. It can be extremely complex, but it's also extremely simple to use, and in fact you can just plug it in right out of the box and get to work. Thanks for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute. I'm Mitch Gallagher.